I've got bookshelves full of great sales and marketing books, but there are really only a few that will take a beginner all the way from start to revenue, step by step, no fluff, and nearly give you 100% guarantee or probability of success. I have 5 books that are on my bookshelf that are heavily, as you can see, dog-eared, and that I would buy today. As an entrepreneur and agency owner for 20 plus years, I've learned valuable lessons that have led to an incredible lifestyle. On this channel, I share insights that have helped me achieve wealth while maintaining a strong work-life balance. Let's get into these magical books. Today, I have 5 books written by 2 authors that you need to drop into your Amazon cart right now. Links in the description. But seriously, these books will demystify online lead generation. So let's outline some key takeaways that you will want to implement from these books. Specifically, Alex Hormozi's and his $100 million offer and leads. And then the other author is Russell Brunson, and he has a sort of trilogy of .com is actually the first one. Probably should have put these in order. I think .com came out first, and then Expert, and then Traffic. And so this is kind of interesting in that he sort of focuses on sort of direct response with .com. Experts is more about sort of branding, personal branding specifically, and offers. And then Traffic is talking about different sources of visitors and traffic and generating that in order to turn it into leads. But ultimately, all of these books come down to 3 main concepts that I want to talk about in this video. And they are really the 3 elements that will predictably and reliably and consistently help you to generate inbound leads, which are like gold in any scenario, whether it's B2C or B2B. So let's go through each of these carefully. So number 1, we always want to start with the offer itself. And as Alex Hormozi, this was his first one, relatively small, short read, and it's got pictures, which is kind of cool. Actually, both of these do a good job of that. Really focuses on the offer. And then the other one in this regard that I would suggest is the Expert Secrets. And this is probably the one that is most systematically, I think Alex does a really nice job and probably a more sort of updated version of this. But this one really gives a framework that consistently works. In regard to lead generation and building an offer and a presentation. But what are we talking about when we're talking about building an offer? Well, it starts most importantly with deeply understanding your ICP. And you're going to hear me talk about this a lot in this video and other videos. That's your ideal customer profile. And it really is the center of everything. Taking a deep understanding of what your ideal customer actually does, understanding their business, understanding their pain points, understanding the solutions that they're probably already investigating, and maybe they have sort of haphazardly used a variety of different things. So first, really capturing what that persona is, and ideally and probably likely you have sort of multiple personas or multiple use cases, as you will, that actually represent the different type of customers that you can solve their problem, that you have a solution that will solve these particular problems. So start to build out those ICPs very specifically, and then for each of them, create an easy to understand, a clear offer. And this should be a primary offer. This is for those people that end up at your site and they already kind of, as we say in the B2B business, they're solution aware. They know what they need. They're just trying to find a credible provider or somebody they can trust, or again, somebody that has kind of the most compelling solution. So you want to start with that. That's going to become your primary offer. And then from there, you might have other sort of productized or products, whether you're working in services. I'm a big fan of productizing services, or you actually have a product, a software product. In any case, you want to have those identified with the different personas that you've identified. And again, if you're a founder or early in a startup, you want to have less of those ICPs and be more specific and more niched. And then over time, you can potentially spread that a little bit and offer the market that you serve a broader range of solutions or a connected set of solutions. Then secondary to that, you want to have a secondary offer, or this is where lead magnets come into. And so lead magnets are specifically for those people who are maybe not solution aware, but they know that they have a problem and that they know that there's probably a solution out there. Lead magnets are great at educating that lead and bringing them deeper into the funnel. And so lead magnets are really effective in the sense that they capture that individual and then they move them through a process, or you're moving them through a process, right, of educating them so that they're the ideal customer. And in a large part, you're pre-selling them. So that's the first thing that you need to get from these books, is peel back and understand what and how do I create this $1 million offer, right? This compelling offer that I can use over and over and over again to capture that initial lead and start to get my leads flowing. The number 2 piece is to build a lead funnel, right? So once you actually have this offer that's compelling, you want to pull them into a funnel that will capture the lead and then over time, build that lead towards a demo, towards a discovery call, and maybe even a series of those calls to get down to the ultimate closing situation. So let's run through what it is to build a lead funnel. So number 1, you need to capture them. So this needs to be on a landing page or your website. There needs to be a mechanism to capture that interest, that intention, that ability to kind of inquire with you and spend some time with you, again, on a demo or a discovery call. One of the things that most people mess up about this is don't just use your contact form. Don't just push them to, hey, give me your name and your email. What we want this to be is more, and I'm a big advocate of this, is a survey style lead funnel or lead form. What you're essentially doing is you're building an intake, right? You're asking them a series of questions that do a few things that are really effective at creating conversion to that lead and pull through on that form. A lot of times people misunderstand that if you ask more questions, it will lower the conversion rate. If you ask the right questions, and that survey style is really good at this, where the person feels like you're starting to solve their problem because you understand, you're asking the right kind of questions. It's obvious as they move through that survey that you understand their business and you understand the things that are important to them, and you understand you're asking the right kind of questions that show that when they have a conversation with you, it's going to be a valuable conversation. So don't be shy about asking questions, but it does need to be a survey style, meaning, and this is really important because most of your leads will actually be filled out on a mobile device, if you can believe that. Even business to business, most of those leads are filled out on a mobile device. So what you need to do is create a list of multiple choice. Again, this is a survey style. I always could have used this analogy back when you were in school and you were in college, when the professor said to you, hey, would you rather have an essay question or would you rather have a multiple choice question? You would always be relieved when you understood it was a multiple choice because it just kind of guided you. And it was easier, right? So that's what we want to do with, we don't want to create a web form that has this description box where you got to type something in and you got to come up with a question to ask. And instead, you just want to ask them a series of survey style questions that quickly moves them through and shows them that you've already handled this problem before. You're familiar with this pattern. So there's all kinds of reasons to use that survey style. I can't emphasize that enough. That will instantly increase your conversion rate. Number 2, the thank you page. The thank you page is an unutilized gold mine. This is one of the reasons that I actually changed if you're working with me as an agency, you'll never hear me say thank you page. You'll always hear me say next steps page, because that page is full of opportunity. They've answered your survey, they've moved through the form, they are, because of that process, there is a sense of trust and credibility that has built towards you. When you land on that thank you page, they are ready to make additional commitments to you. So at the very minimum, you should clearly outline to them what's going to happen next, what's the next steps in the process, what can they expect from you, when will you reach out to them, or how fast will you reach out to them. And then this is a great opportunity, becoming more and more acceptable, to put that scheduling link to say, hey, if you want to, you can go ahead and pick a time that works best for you for our strategy call or a discovery call or a demo call. So that's the very least of what you should do. But you can upsell or get an additional sell on this page. So if you are working in B2C, you can offer an adjacent sort of product. So for instance, when we're doing mortgage leads for real estate investors, oftentimes we'll put an offer for property insurance, right? Or an insurance product on that, because those are adjacent and similar products. And if you're getting a mortgage, you probably need insurance, right? In B2B, this could be some incremental product that you have, or it could be an offer if you're, let's say you're selling web development services. It could be an offer to get a complimentary website audit, which allows you to, you're probably going to do this anyway, take a look through the website, make some recommendations. Increasingly, you can do this with AI. So if you have something that's essentially a free or an incremental product, again, you can give some additional value, you can do an upsell or offer an additional thing. So at the very least, go ahead and get your scheduled appointment there so you don't have to go through the process of outreaching. So that next steps page is really important once you get them through the form. And then the last component of that lead funnel is lead nurturing. There's this old adage that the money's in the list, and there's nothing that could be more true. So again, the way I hammer this home all the time is I say your next conversion, your next closing is already in your CRM. And the fact of the matter is that invariably that first fresh new lead and demo and discovery call is probably not going to convert into a closed deal. You're going to need to have a couple different contacts. And if you just get them to fill out the form and you're trying to get them to schedule an appointment to schedule that demo or that discovery call, you're probably going to have to talk to them or add some value and have a few touch points before they're actually going to schedule that appointment. So that lead nurturing is critical. And then long term, beyond, even your turn downs, your non-responsives, folks that weren't a fit at a certain time, if you continue to nurture those, you will continue to get additional leads out of that list and out of that sort of cold or aged leads database. In fact, today I just talked to somebody that the last time I had contact with them when we lost the deal was 18 months ago. And last week I actually had a conversation which was probably going to turn into a pretty large deal, where they actually went with another provider, and now that didn't work out so well, and they're actually coming back to us. They've already got budget approved and are ready to work with us directly. So don't sort of cancel out those things that are lost or go unresponsive, but instead making sure that your lead funnel expands to lead nurturing. Okay, point 3. This is probably as critical of any of the other two and the most sort of not appreciated, right? And that is to build a personal brand, right? People ultimately like to do business with people. Sure, they're ultimately going to work with your company probably, and having a good company brand will help to build trust and credibility, but ultimately bringing your personal brand alongside of that company brand will increase your conversion rate, right? They will essentially come to you pre-sold. They will have seen you out in the marketplace. They will have seen your demonstrated expertise. And when they come to you seeking that expertise, right, versus you having to convince them that you know what you're talking about. So building a personal brand can be super powerful. And again, is covered in several of these, in particular, kind of these two books. This is the leads one, and a lot of the funnel activity and stuff is in here. Experts has a lot of this personal brand building. Again, this was when Brunson was in the process of exploring his own personal brand, and then the kind of the channels and funnels and stuff are reflected in these two. But when you're considering this personal brand, the most important thing to think about is, again, think about that ICP and then start to build a commonplace book of those pain points and solutions. And you hear me talk about this in some other videos. I do this in a very analog way, but there's this concept of a commonplace book whereby you're gathering information, quotes, examples, stories that go to be kind of the definitive guide to a particular set of whatever, right? So in this case, you could take an industry and you could build out like all of the potential pain points, all of the potential solution sets, and capture those in one place that you can kind of practice through those. And then that becomes your content. Big fan of video, of course, but written content can also play a place. This is also where ChatGPT is really effective. So going through here and building out this complete ultimate guide to the pain points that you solve, and then incrementally building your personal brand by building content that goes over each of those pain points and how you would solve, examples of each of the use cases, and how you could potentially solve them. Generally, some of the business pain points or adjacent business pain points, you may not even be the solution, but showing that you're an authority and an expert at working within that industry first, and number two, specifically solving certain business and even role-based pain points that you have the solutions to and your services and products serve. Again, I prefer video to written, and if I were to kind of tell you what the perfect sort of workflow would be, is I would generate a video, and then I would move that video in some form, a short form, possibly into LinkedIn content. I would build a short form written piece that would go into LinkedIn. And then ultimately I would bring that content to my email list. And then again, ultimately to a blog post. Everything starting with that initial video session. And this is exactly how I build my content. So I've got some videos on how to build a content system, and you can check that out. But that's essentially the workflow. Build that video covering each and every pain point, each and every use case that you can think of, so that you have sort of a complete set of or library of content that shows your expertise in all of those areas, and then rolling that out in different formats in different channels. Ultimately, that's going to build out a multi-channel approach. And you want to do this in a sort of a natural and organic way. So don't try to boil the ocean, but if you can, have one format that you start with. It could be written, and then from there, build out and reuse that content in a couple different forms where it naturally fits in to some additional channels. So where do you need to start working? Chances are you probably need to start with that offer and really thinking about your ICP and understanding who that ideal customer profile or profiles are. But you also might be sitting there with a CRM full of aged leads or an email list that's just begging for a couple campaigns or sequences to be run against it, to let those people know what you offer, or update them into what you offer as far as products or services. Or maybe you just need to become more comfortable in being the brand and sharing your expertise out onto the internet, so that those folks arrive at you pre-sold and more of your lead opportunities come inbound. Let me know in the comments where you're going to start this process of generating more leads, and we'll catch you on the next video.